some intangibles that those projections failed to take into consideration.
The crowd was going crazy. There's not much in life that's better than that.
You're listening to Garlic Fries and Baseball Guys with Mark Willard and Joe Shasky on the 95.7 The Game Podcast Network.
All right, what is going on? It's the next episode of Garlic Fries and Baseball Guys. That is Joe Shasky. I'm Mark Willard. Glad you're with us, as always, with our couple of episodes a week. And we're coming to you at the almost end of the series against the Pirates, which still could go either way. Giants with another chance to get back to 500. So maybe mentally, this is a really big one. But let's look, Joe, at the series as it's kind of already come together. The Logan Webb outing yesterday, first and foremost, was fantastic. But secondly, it led to a really big in-the-moment conversation as he works his way through a difficult eighth inning. And immediately, who knows what conversation was happening in the dugout, but man, from social media to friends of mine on my phone, immediately everybody was triggered at the idea of handing that over to the bullpen, which Gabe Kapler did, and Camilo Doval was fine and got through it for the save. But it sounded like a lot of Giants fans were really, really wanting Logan Webb to get the ninth. What did you think?
Man, you hit the nail on the head in terms of how everyone was perceiving it. People were losing their minds. Oh, 2012 Bochy would have done X, Y, and Z. Do we not remember that 2012 Brian Wilson basically threw his arm out because he had so many 4-5 out saves? Like, do people not forget that? It kind of blows me away. Yes, were there times when there was a no-hitter or a perfect game going on where Bochy rode out the starter and the hot hand? Absolutely. Bochy is Bochy because of how he carved out that bullpen and the roles that he had for every one of those guys. You know what Camilo Doval's role is? When we're up 1 or 2 or 3 runs and it's a tight game, you're getting the rock, young man. And that's why you have him. Like, this, to me, was a no-brainer. The context of how he struggled in the 8th inning, Logan Webb, where he actually was in the stretch and he was throwing a lot of high-leverage pitches, that, to me, supersedes all the data. And that's why I'm totally behind Kapler on this one. He made the right decision. It was a gut decision in my move because he only threw 99 pitches. And if you looked on a spreadsheet, you'd say, oh, 99, he could have gone another inning, maybe let another batter in. No. This was a textbook. I watched you struggle a little here. You just got out of the inning. Let's go to the fresh arm in the bullpen. I loved what Kapler did. I
wonder if this was one of those things where we were having the conversation out here and in there, they weren't. I don't even think this was a thought. This was an obvious move to Camilo Doval to me. Yes, there's always the emotional side of me because we love Logan Webb. Mm-hmm. He's such a bulldog, and you see the way he was pitching out there. So yeah, like, do you fall in love with the romanticism of a complete game? Sure you do. And it's the Pirates and he's Logan, and so I would have loved his chances to go out there and get 3 more outs. But at the same time, staying with him was in the 8th, not in the 9th.
Thank you.
We've watched so many times that starter gets pulled, especially you walk someone to load the bases.
Thank you.
I mean, like, I was actually in the moment. I was like, good job, Gabe, for sticking with him there.
Yes.
But at the 9th, I thought he was going to yank him right there in the 8th, and he stayed with him, and he got the strikeout, and he got to the dugout. And if you watch the highlight, it was bang. It was a lot of back slaps. And part of that is because, you got through the 8th, but normally for a starting pitcher, you start getting high fives and back slaps. It's because you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. And so I wonder if in the dugout to get to 100 pitches, to labor to get there, to work your way through the 8th, I don't even know if this was a discussion.
I'm so with you on this one. Like, had it been reversed, let's say it's the 6th inning where he has struggles and he gets through it and he's cruising 1, 2, 3 in the 7th and in the 8th. That's a totally different story. This is where context matters. And I'm happy that Gabe, and I'm kind of with you, and maybe this was predetermined. I don't know, but seeing the way he finished that inning, all I kept thinking about, forget the Giants at 2012 because they were celebrating them that particular night. We'll get to them in a minute. If this was Kershaw and Jansen the last decade, everyone's saying this is the template for success. My 25-year-old starter in Logan Webb goes 8 strong, and he hands the rock to my other 25-year-old closer who I'm hoping we could do this for the next decade. Like, this is how you draw it up.
Okay, so here's the thing though, and I think we know why the Giants fan mind was working the way it was in game 2 of that series that we're talking about. And it's because we've got let's see, we can't call it PTSD. We can call it BTSD. We've got bullpen traumatic stress syndrome. We absolutely do, because they've been terrible.
Yeah.
They've been terrible. I've talked about this the last couple of episodes. They are the reason that the Giants are barely, if you even want to call them still in the playoff race, they are the number one difference between this year and last year. And as we said last week, if you just want to look at bullpen war, the bottom 10 teams, those are the bad teams. The top 10 teams, those are the good teams. Like, bullpen is such an indicator, and they've been bad. And Doval, we can mostly trust. And right now, he's the only one. I would have pointed out Brebbia as the other one we can trust, but not his last couple outings. And just as we're sitting here doing this episode, he coughed up a 3-run homer and the lead in the Sunday game against the Pirates. So we want to stick with these starters because the bullpen has been so bad, and it continues to be what I will point to as the number one failure of the roster construction this year, which is that I don't really know, and you correct me if I'm wrong, and I know guys have been acquired and called up, Alex Young, guys like that, but like, who did they acquire in the offseason, and who did they acquire at the deadline who are established bullpen arms? None.
In fact, they lost Tony Watson.
Right. And I get that they could respond with, well, why would we change the bullpen? It was really good last year. So, okay, fine. If you want to tell me that you don't have to acquire someone preseason, you certainly do midseason.
Yeah.
When Alvarez is injured and Rogers is underperforming and Leon looks like he's completely hit a wall, and on we could go through all of the guys. Garcia is not the same pitcher he was last year. So I'm shocked that an organization that has been so based on the bullpen for so long let it get to this.
Yeah, and on the night we're celebrating, Brian Wilson going down and Bochy going to the other guys in the bullpen, and Affeldt saying on the front end, I don't believe in closer by committee. He's saying that in 2012. And Bochy goes, yeah, I don't normally either, but we have no other choice. And then you make the legends of Romo, Casilla, Affeldt, Lopez. Like, it's kind of a crazy contrast compared to this year. Look, you make a great point. They have lost players, whether it's Posey in the lineup, whether it's McGee getting DFA'd, whether it's Tony Watson retiring. And that's my biggest problem. Forget just the lineup or just the bullpen. In totality, they haven't built on anything from last year. That's my biggest gripe with right now. When you have a year like you did last year, I'm not saying you got to knock it out and upgrade at every position, but you got to upgrade a little. You got to upgrade a little. And if anything, they lost in too many categories, and bullpen's one of them, where I'm looking up and I'm saying Tyler Rogers, career year last year. Doval, wow, emergence out of nowhere. Jake McGee, up to that point, career year. This year, no one's having a career year but Doval, and it's very, very frustrating. One guy that I had high hopes for heading into this year, Gervin Castro, and then they DFA him out of nowhere. I don't know what happened with him, but he showed promise last year. There's no one coming up. There's no one that they've made trades for. And then I look in the bullpen, and there's really nobody I trust but Doval.
Yeah. And look, that's when games are won or lost, obviously. 7th, 8th, 9th inning, you can't have people come in and consistently give up runs and win baseball games. You just can't. And look, the development situation, I would expect that you're going to see some stuff in the offseason changed with regard to the farm system, with regard to development, because as you said, you had Gervin Castro. You've even had other names that I think,
Santos came up for just a minute.
Year and a half ago, Sean Jelly was a name that they're excited about. And it's like, what, Elliot Ramos, what happened? The guys who were already on the doorstep, it hasn't happened.
They feel farther away, Mark.
Yeah,
that's the thing that's frustrating.
I mean, the only two people who feel like they're developing in a positive direction right now as far as young players are Tyro Estrada, who was acquired already big league ready last year. And now just this new addition of Joey Bart.
Yeah.
Is literally it. And Doval, but again, this is someone who was already here.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be the secondary part of the offseason. The part we're all going to be watching is the player acquisition. But the second part is I wonder if there are going to be some changes in the player development roles with the Giants this winter.
Well, and the big frustration I have, and again, I don't love every move that this team makes all year round. No one does. I don't care if you're Joe Torre in the middle of his 4 out of 5 World Series wins in a row. But the point being with Kapler, I feel like he's the sacrificial lamb. And my big question to a lot of people ripping him every time he goes to the bullpen, where else is he supposed to go? Like, what do you want him to magically get guys out for these dudes? Like, he's pulling from very unsatisfying options at this point. And I'm very much trying to defend him, especially when it comes to the arms and the bullpens, because they don't have anyone to go to. Last night, you talking about the Logan Webb situation, him letting Logan Webb pitch that 8th, I thought was like, okay, I know you guys don't trust Tyler Rogers, and neither do I. So I'm going to go with my stud, and we'll see where it goes. He has a kind of shaky inning, barely gets out of it, and then he gets crushed anyway for going to Doval. Like, the guy can't win right now. And my big takeaway is it's not his fault. Again, I don't love every move he makes, but we're mad at the wrong person.
Wow.
We need to be mad at roster construction.
I'm not going to be mad at a game where they shut the other team out. That's weird. Just on the surface, right? Like, that's just odd.
Yes.
So yeah, last night was not emblematic of anything bad. I think this was a discussion that is based on what triggers us. The Giants bullpen triggers us, so we don't want them to go to the bullpen.
Yes.
Even though I bet in the dugout this was a non-discussion. Like, Logan Webb probably got a high five and went, I'm going to take a shower. Tell me how Camilo does. That's I know he stayed in the dugout, but that's what I think it was like.
Let me ask you one question here, and I don't even know if this is a quantifiable thing. Had DeSclafani stayed healthy, don't you think that they would have been a little bit better in the bullpen? I do feel, and you can't control injuries. I get it. Injuries happen all over. But if they just had a competent 4th or 5th starter who could just chew up some innings, I just got to feel that they'd have 1 or 2 extra arms in the pen. And I'm not saying it would be dramatically different, like they'd be a top 5 bullpen, but it'd be a little better than where we're at now. They've got nothing reliable back there.
I wonder who would have been kicked out of the rotation. Junis, would he be down in the bullpen? I don't know. What would have happened if Matthew Boyd had stayed healthy and then actually ended up on the roster here in the month of August like he was supposed to? They had some laid plans. Some of them blew up in their faces. Others, really worked out as far as the rotation. It's an underrated rotation. Junis kind of came out of nowhere. Alex Cobb, as we've talked about, has been low-key really good, better than his numbers.
I agree.
And Alex Wood has hung in there and been fine as a 3rd, 4th starter. So that's not it. I just think that when things started to go south in the bullpen, they didn't get addressed. And I still don't really get why.
I would bring back Alex Cobb on a 1-year deal if he's willing to accept that, to compete with DeSclafani for that final starter role. I think you hit the nail on the head. He's been better than the numbers, and I actually think there's more to his game if he gets a little more defense behind him. I really do.
Yeah, no, he's been fine. And actually, by the way, if I'm remembering it correct, and let me look it up here while we're talking, I think Cobb is on a 2-year deal.
You on a 2-year?
Yeah, I think
good.
Let me look at it. Yeah, they've got Cobb next year.
I like him.
Yeah, Logan Webb and Alex Cobb right now are the two that you can go ahead and in ink. You don't need to pencil them in. You can pen those two in. That's 2/5 of your rotation next year. And I guess, I guess Alex Wood and Anthony DeSclafani at the start of the year are going to be members 3 and 4 as well. If you sign Rodon to a contract, you could come back with the exact same rotation. And I don't know if I necessarily hate that. I don't think that's an area that needs an overhaul. I think everything else does.
I think retaining Rodon is obviously, to me, that's step one. That would be number one, the one move. And then where's Harrison at? Can he crack this rotation? Let's say Harrison does, and he's your fourth or fifth. Like, now you're giving him a soft landing spot, and now you're pushing one of these other guys into that Yasmero Petit kind of swing man role where he can be a spot starter. Like, that's a role I think they really missed, that George Kontos role.
You be careful about saying Kyle Harrison, as much as I'd love him in the rotation, the way this executive staff has operated, are they going to say, hey, we don't need to re-sign Rodon? We've got Harrison. We've got Harrison for $20 million less.
Well, my counter to that would be pitching is, to me, pitching's the great neutralizer against all of these great offenses. And if you can make one area of your team elite, why would you try to patchwork it? You know what I mean? Like, stay elite in that area, and it just solves so much. Like, if you know you're handing the rock to 4 or 5 of those guys every single time around, it just makes it so. Think of how difficult this year's been, just trying to figure out who that 4th and 5th guy is.
Yep, absolutely.